Call the meeting to order at 4:02. We're going to skip the minutes for the moment and jump right into updates from action steps from the prior meeting. Real quick, Kathy didn't ask the select board if we have their permission to have an outreach thing, but she's sure that it's fine. So I'm going to operate on the assumption that that's going to be okay. I know Kit Rivers, and I met the other select board member there, and he was fine with it. So at best, it's a split decision, but I think we're fine. So we'll proceed as if we have their blessing on that. Mailing and presentation for outreach was developed. Did everybody on the committee get a chance to look at the mailing piece that I sent out to the committee?
I did not.
Okay.
Um,
Let me see about bringing that up.
let me see if I can bring that up too.
I am reasonably certain I sent it. Yes, example outreach letter, and I'll just share it.
Okay, thank you.
Share. So this is an example. We can tweak it. I don't know. Who did we just get? Tom. Excellent. Just need one more. So Tom, just catching you up, we moved on to the update of action steps because we don't have a quorum yet, but we've got messages out to Rhiannon and Mike Summer. So hopefully one of them will be able to join us. We'll be able to take some votes. Okay. And you may not have even heard that because you might not have been connected to audio yet. But we're on agenda item D right now, and we're going to go back to minutes later. All right, so this is what I put together, inviting people to Wednesday, April 26th at 6:30 at the Gouldsboro Rec Center. We're going to present our work. Open to all residents and taxpayers. We're going to go over broadband basics. I know people did look, at least some people did look at the PowerPoint that I threw out there as well. Work of the committee so far, the work still ahead, and a request for feedback from them. We anticipate subsequent similar gatherings in the future, with the next one to be located in Winter Harbor. Encourage all who are able to attend now to do so. And I included sandwiches, wraps, pizza, and beverages based on our discussion last time. I'm also encouraging people to sort of RSVP. And it occurs to me that I should specify that number that I leave there, which is my number, unless anybody else wants to volunteer, that is a landline. If somebody wants to volunteer their cell phone as a recipient of text messages as well, I'm okay with that. But otherwise, I figure they can call and leave a message at my house number. Though I hope they don't do it too late at night. Any thoughts on that so far?
I think that looks great.
Okay.
And thank you for doing that with the phone number. I'm sorry, I'll be away. I won't be able to take messages.
Yeah, my number's been out there for a lot of reasons, so, and it still doesn't get a lot of junk, so why not?
Awesome.
Bob, that look good to you? You're muted, but I'll assume that was a yes. Okay, and Tom? Okay. All right, so with that done, what I'm going to do is I will send this out to the Gouldsboro Town Office and the Winter Harbor Town Office tomorrow. I've already spoken to both Kathy and Brianna, so they know that this is going to be coming. And we'll get this in the mail as soon as possible. So stop share there. The,
Roy, Roy, did you say that they'll be able to make copies for you? They'll print it off and send it out?
I believe that's what they did last time.
Okay, yeah,
And I encourage them, if they want to bill us for the paper, do that as well.
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine. We've got the funds for that right now.
perfect.
Then the PowerPoint did, I know Tom got a chance to look, there's Rhiannon. Not to sound extra excited, but once you're established, Rhiannon, unless the group is opposed, I'd like to move back to the minutes and then move ahead to the things we actually need to vote on. So we can make sure we get that while we have a quorum. Let me know when you're ready, Rhiannon.
I'm ready to go anytime. Sorry, I'm a little late. I've been on the road.
No problem. It's most important that you showed up. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to move back to review and approval of the March 29th, 2023 meeting minutes. Would anybody like to move that those be approved as written?
I'd like to recommend that they be approved as written.
Okay, second. Anyone?
Second,
Sandy? Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay, the ayes have it. On to the other things that need votes. Gonna jump down to I, expenditure authorizations. Did everybody get a chance to review that list of items that we want to spend money on?
you're talking about the document expenses to be authorized, correct?
That is the one.
Yep. Yep, had a chance.
I will share it just in case.
Well, now you're showing off.
You know what? I'd rather just get it out there. So
Yeah.
500 for administrative as discussed. That's the maximum we can from the grant, which I think is fair.
Yep.
Outreach event insurance, I went and requoted for 100 participants. It still came to $77. So I'm just putting it outreach up to $100
Mhm.
for this first one. Refreshments, I'm assuming it's going to be less than 250, but I figure if we have up to 250. AV equipment, they may not bill us for the renting or the borrowing of Schoodic Institute's projector and screen.
Mhm.
And a computer, but it doesn't hurt to have that ability there. Zoom account was discussed, 150 for a year. I looked at pricing out web domain and hosting, and it is well within, I believe, the 150 for 3 years of hosting, actually, with an annual, I think, renewal of the domain somewhere in the neighborhood of $20. So that should get us for a while. And printing and mailing for the stuff that we're doing now for these outreach events. The Winter Harbor still hasn't actually been reimbursed for the prior mailing with the survey. So I asked Kathy to put together 2 separate bills, one for that one and one for this current one, because I don't think the earlier one fits within the MCA grant,
Yep.
the 10,000.
And Mike was going to try to jump in. I don't know if he's in the waiting room.
Waiting
Just-
room isn't enabled,
Isn't.
so
Okay,
whenever.
perfect.
um,
Just wanted to give you a heads up.
Wonderful. Any other bits that people can think of that we need to toss onto this list?
Nope. It's a
Okay.
modest list and covers all the salient points of what we
Okay.
need.
So would anybody like to move to authorize these expenditures as presented?
I'll make a motion to present the expense, for the expenditures as presented.
Okay. Do we have a
Motion to
second?
approve, yep.
I'll second.
Sandy, okay. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
All right. Good. Vacancies on the committee, really quick. We haven't seen Josh Mansfield, I think, since about that first or second time that he showed up. I would move that he is no longer functioning as part of the committee and declare him no longer a member. Is there a second on that by any chance?
I'll second that.
Okay. And this is not to be exclusionary whatsoever. He's been getting all of the messages, all of the email. It's just, it's hard to count somebody as a member and then have a quorum when you have so many members that don't show up. So he's always welcome to rejoin us. And with that, a motion is second unless there's any other discussion. Hearing none. All those in
Nope.
favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. The ayes have it. All right, we'll go back down to update of action steps from prior meeting. Now, we can go over the PowerPoint, or we can turn over to our guests really quick here because I don't want to take up more of their time than necessary. We have Dan Sullivan from Down East Broadband. We have Mark Goulet from Axiom and Simon Thorne from Consolidated Communications. I know, Dan, you had something you said at around 5 o'clock you needed to run to. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Simon or Mark, do either of you have an earlier commitment that would be useful to get in and out?
I'm good.
Okay. I'll stop share on this since we've done that bit. Okay, well, why don't we start with you, Dan, just because I know you do have a time limit. I don't think it's going to take anywhere close to 5 o'clock, but let's just go in that order. And of course, Dan, thank you again for joining us, and you've joined us in the past. And I just wanted to give the members of the committee a chance to ask any follow-up questions that they might have for you. I know in our discussion, you said that it's more plausible now that non-geographically contiguous towns can join DBU than it was before. So anything you can just give us for information about that?
Just we've reached out to there are other towns considering it now that are not contiguous to us.
Mhm.
It's a matter of being able to be connected to Three Ring Binder in order to make the connection through. That's getting on Three Ring Binder is critical to making that happen.
Okay.
We also, I think I mentioned to you, Roy, too, that we also went through this applies to the MCA process. We received a couple of grants for 2 of our towns, and the MCA, we were all ready to go. It was through the Connect Me Authority, and we were all ready to receive the funds, and MCA threw a curveball at us and said we had to redo all our contracts, and they didn't like a whole bunch of stuff. So DBU had to bring our lawyers into the game, and I finally got them we created a new document that satisfied what the requirements for MCA, but also got them to agree that this would be a template for other towns, so we don't have to go back and keep hiring lawyers in order to be able to, expand the network, which was, we know how that works.
Right.
But anyway, so we have the template now. So if any town wishes to, talk about joining DBU, we're willing to talk.
Okay. Did you end up finding additional network operators? Because I know that was a capacity limitation for you previously.
Yeah, we're not at capacity as far as our network operator is, but if we were to go, a further distance away, what we would look at is probably a network operator in the local area where a town would join. But our particular network operator is presently taking care of 4 towns, and there's 2 more coming on. So he and his crew were able to handle these 6 towns. If we were to take something 150, 200 miles away, then we would look at a little, varied model, a little different.
Sure. And just a refresher, if a town did want to join, what would be the process to start that discussion?
The towns have to, they've got to go on their own and figure out what it's going to cost to build these networks, so that you have an understanding of, you know, how it works. The way the DBU model works is we're not taxpayer funded. We're a completely 100% nonprofit. You know, our networks are being built and operated and maintained by the people who actually buy the service. So when a town wants to come on board, you've got to play that math game between what it costs to build the network, what you think your reasonable take rate will be, and then what loans you think what grants you can get from MCA or other sources, and then play those numbers to make sure that it works. You know, but for example, we couldn't take a town of 50 people on with a $800,000 build cost, you know, that just, unless MCA wanted to fund the whole thing, which that's not going to happen. Something like that wouldn't work. So that's part of the process. The idea is that you would get a network build cost. I know MCA is working on making that easier for places like yourself, looking at high level designs and using that as a number now, rather than we had to have very detailed, you know, nuts and bolts down to the washers type network build things that you'll have to have in the end. But in order to work for an MCA grant, you don't have to have it up front. I believe that's what they're working towards. And then if you decide that the DBU model is something that you either want to connect to us, or you want to create your own utility, which is something you certainly can do. I mean, I've sent you the legal documentation that we've done, and you're free to take that, but save you some legal costs. And you still need to have a lawyer, but you can do a far less work if you wanted to create your own utility. You know, we don't advocate one over the other. We'd love to have DBU get bigger and bigger, absolutely. But if you know yourselves wanted to operate your own utility, you're certainly in a position to do that.
You know, I know I've thought long run for you guys, you have board representation from each of the towns within DBU.
Yeah.
So if you get up to 12, 15, 20 towns, eventually you're going to have a very big board. Yeah,
We would look at that. You know, we may craft it a little differently. Our board,
right,
really, knock on wood, we have 100% participation on every single board member at every single meeting. I mean, these are all volunteers. Nobody's paid here.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that we're at the size we're at, we've got select board members from the towns that belong to it, or people that are appointed by the select boards of those towns, so that the representation is there. But if we get too big, we'll find other ways to keep people in the loop.
right. And you are, I mean, DBU is self-sufficient at this point. It's not, you're not losing money. You're ahead of the game. You're ahead
We're
of the
ahead of the
curve.
game.
Yeah.
Our biggest constraint right now is having enough technicians to hook people up.
Right.
We have a waiting list for people to connect to the network, so we're in very good shape. We just got Alexander 100% connected. Just got Indian Township 100% connected. So in those towns, they've got horrible internet options.
Mhm.
So we're expecting very, very high take rates from both of those areas.
And is Pioneer still are they the ones doing the builds, or are they just
Yes.
the
So
okay.
far, yep. But any town that wants to potentially join DBU, they work with their own contractors.
Okay.
We're not married to Pioneer specifically.
Mhm.
You know, I would suggest, you know, you send out proposals to multiple, you know, contract builders to make sure you get a fair estimate of what it's going to cost to build the network.
And I think the last question for me is, Pioneer was the only ISP that was offering service over your network previously, but you said you were looking at another one that might begin.
Yeah, we're in negotiations with another one at this point. There was another third one we thought we might want to work with, but we decided not to. So we've got two right now. We're hoping to have two here. And we're always open to others.
Okay. Those are my questions. Anybody else on the committee?
Yep. Hi, this is Bob. Danny, I have a question for you. Were there any outages during the winter, and how were they handled?
We had, I don't have the exact number in front of me because it was very few. But Pioneer's our emergency repair group. And they have been phenomenal as far as getting us back up and running. So we've had a few short ones, but nothing very lengthy.
Okay, do we have any stats like mean time to repair?
I don't have them in front of me right now. I can get those for you.
Sure.
We're also in the process, just so you know, we're reaching out to other network repair operators in the state. Just, to see if we want to make sure we have a backup to the backup.
Right, so do you have any diversity in place? Like, well, obviously, elect diversity, that's one of the considerations, access egress, diversity. Is that, do you have anything like that in consideration?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Bob.
Well, okay, like in terms of diverse paths, I guess you're single threaded.
Yes, we have a
aerial?
home run. We have a home run network, so every subscriber gets their own strand of fiber.
Okay.
That's back to the central office.
Back to the CO, yeah.
And is there any redundancy in the connection from the CO to the 3-ring binder?
Yes, we have a path up and through Canada.
Okay. So we're not dealing with any collapse rings or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Those are my main questions.
Sandy, Tom, Rhiannon?
Yeah, my only question is that we have support from the community, the authority, sorry, MCA. I've got too many acronyms in my head today. The technical assistance they offer through our partners is with Tilson and Eastern Maine Development Corporation. I didn't know if any of you have been working with either of those partners as well.
We have not, but I think Tilson now is part of the MCA process for future grantees or recipients. I think that's a piece that Tilson will be, they're very involved with this whole process. I would like to add that in the DBU model, since right now we're the only operating municipal utility in Maine. And like I said earlier, we're a nonprofit. So what is the beauty of the system we set up, which is paid for by the subscribers, is that once our network build costs have been satisfied, and we'll save out money for maintenance and operations, of course, that's a revenue stream coming back to the individual towns. That those dollars coming in now to DBU to pay and maintain the network will continue. So not like a profit corporation where, obviously the profits go back to the people that own the corporation, stockholders and others. We operate differently. Our profits will go back to the individual towns.
And was there a different impact for like grant writing and whatnot because you're your own nonprofit versus the municipality going to and looking for funds from MCA or otherwise?
It's a really good question. I get the impression from MCA that they are very excited about community-owned broadband. And I've met with Andrew Butcher, the president there, numerous times. He's been up and toured our system, and I know him quite well. And they're very excited about working with municipalities because, this in the end, these are public dollars. It's our money, and they're excited about the idea of returning it back to the public. So we're working with them. We're trying to because we're a very rural area like you guys are, and these are small towns, and we have to be able to get a good chunk of the network build by way of a grant. I can give you an example in Cooper, where I live. It's about a $580,000 build, and we were able to get $400,000 from Connect Me for a grant. So we got 2/3 of the cost covered with a grant, which is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
You go.
All right. Any other questions for Dan?
Nope.
All right. Well, if anybody thinks them up, we can always email them over, and thank you again for joining us.
Sure. I'm going to hang in for a while anyway, just to listen to everybody else. I'll bow out when I have to. It's nice talking to you guys.
All right. You too.
Thanks, Sam.
You bet.
All right. I'm going to go alphabetically. I would say whether it's Axiom, Mark or Simon or Roulette or Thorn. Axiom is next. How are you doing, Mark?
Good, thank you.
So I don't have any additional questions based off of the RFI. I'll just turn it over to the other committee members if they have any follow-up questions for you. As I mentioned in the email, we are going to be working towards an RFP process. We discussed earlier the outreach event that we're going to do, and hopefully at that event, we're going to get some feedback from the community members that are in attendance to see what model or where on the spectrum of models they think is the best route for our communities to go. And, hopefully that will inform our process. But knowing that we're leading up to working towards an RFP, just turn it over to the committee for questions that they may have. And if they don't have any.
You see
anything
how
else?
comprehensive my RFI response was? Simon is not even close. You're gonna have 20 questions for him. He was incomplete. Danny was incomplete in his responses. It's just, I'm perfect. No, I'm happy to take questions, and I'm happy to talk for a few minutes if you want me to just remind people what we're up to. I'm perfectly fine to do anything or not take anything and just move on and go on to Simon. No issues.
I only had one question. It'll go for both of you pretty much, is in the past 6 months to a year, is there a similar community that you'd like to use as a referral, that if I went to their website or to their town municipality to ask, how are the services, who would you recommend?
From my perspective, you can ask any one of the communities that we have up and running or are building now. We're out on Cranberry Isles, we're out on Cliff Island, we're in Georgetown, we're building in Leeds right now. We just got awarded a couple of projects that might be more helpful to you in understanding why they worked with us, Vienna and a couple of others. So I'm happy to provide information and whatever you need, relatively speaking. If Roy just shoots me an email or from you guys, I'll provide a few connections.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So this is Bob. I do have one question. I just received a letter from a competitor of yours stating that the given speed now for me is 500 megabits for internet. All right, I can just request new modem upgrade to support that speed. What are your typical speeds or standard speed offerings now?
We're at 100 standard, 100 over 100, 250 over 250, 500 over 500, and we do offer a gig over a gig.
Okay. So you're offering symmetrical speeds up and down.
Correct.
Okay.
That's all we offer, frankly. Nowadays, it's all on fiber. Your network, if we were to build your network, and I think everybody else is in the same place, so all three of us would say this, we'd be building a 10 gig network, which would allow you, with a change of equipment over time, to get 10,000 megs over 10,000 megs at every home, if that's what you want. Maybe Consolidated has even gone beyond that. He can speak to that, but that's a pretty standard fiber install nowadays.
It's amazing how the technology has moved forward.
Yeah.
Yep. Simon, can you talk to that?
Yeah, Mark's exactly right. Our network is being built to handle 10 gig symmetrical service to the home. For our speeds, I guess I can answer that if you'd like me to, or I can wait, more for my turn. It's up to you.
Well, this is, I guess, maybe in rebuttal, or if you can add to it, standard speed for consumers.
Yeah, so we currently, everything is symmetrical, as Mark had said. So we do 50, 250, 1 gig, 2 gig. in the very near future, we will move to a couple of more speed tiers that are higher. I think something like a 5 or a 6, as well as an 8. I think those are in the very near future.
Okay. So if I was a consumer, say in Gouldsboro, and I wanted service, the standard offering would be what, 50 meg, 100 meg? What would that be?
Is that for me or for Mark?
No, this is for you, Simon.
Okay. It would be whatever you wanted, right? You could take the 2 gig, the 1, the 250, or the 50.
So I guess it's all based upon price and what you would charge a consumer.
Right. I think the 50 meg service is $35 a month for the first year. That would go to $55 after the first year. The 2 gig is $85 a month for the first year, and then that will go to $95 after that.
Okay.
And, I'll just throw out there, one of the things that we've been operating around is that the network, whatever solution we land on for our communities, should be capable of 100 symmetrical. That's what we sort of outlined as our goal. So as long as what's built is there, I'm great. If there's a cheaper option that's more affordable for customers, that's not 100, but it meets their needs, as long as the network exists that can support that, that's the key thing for me. So, yeah, I just, truth in advertising, I just switched back. I'm going to be getting a competitor's internet service for a couple years here on the 500 and over 20 plan as well, Bob, because my current provider has some price creep going on, and
Right.
I have very little loyalty when it comes to price creep. That's just me personally. I know it's a normal thing, but so Simon, I will just I could have sent you an email, and this is nothing that we need to worry about. I'll just add for your response. I noticed after the fact that there was a chunk of the town missing in the proposal. And I know why that is. It's the Gouldsboro Point Road, which it starts in Township 7. And the phone numbers on that are 546 numbers. So they come off of the Millbridge Steuben side. So it's just one road that is geographically in Gouldsboro, but starts up in Township 7. Nothing critical. I don't think it alters the substance of the proposal, really. We weren't talking numbers yet, but I just wanted to put that out there for you.
Appreciate that. I would just say, along with anybody else, right? If we were to work together, it would be service for all.
Yeah,
there'd be no exceptions. So
absolutely. Anybody have any questions for Simon specifically?
Not yet.
Okay. So then I guess I would ask both Simon and Mark, since you did respond to the RFIs, as we go out to an RFP process, is there anything, my ignorance, I've never done an RFP either. So if there's anything that is specific that you would like to see in the document that we create to lay out exactly the expectations. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
yeah, I can speak for myself or for CCI, I guess I would say. I've seen RFPs that are 35 pages. I've seen RFPs that are, 2 or 3. I'm sure Mark has seen that as well. It's really dependent on what the town is looking for. I think there are some basics that you're looking for, right? Fiber, no copper, right? Service to everybody, affordability, those types of things, but it can really be as complex as you would like to have it as a town.
Yeah, I do have one question that came up, as a matter of fact, the inside wiring. Would you guys be responsible for inside wiring? Yeah, where's, well, actually, let me rephrase that. Where would the demarc be?
So I'll go first, Mark, sorry.
Yeah, go for it,
Uh,
Simon.
So, part of our installation would be that we would have a demarc on the outside of the house, but we would place new wiring all the way to where the modem was. Right,
Okay.
so
So would you be going to copper or carrying fiber optical all the way through, end to end?
we would run fiber all the way through to the ONT, and then it would transfer from there into copper to the modem. And that's a very short, depending on the setup in the individual home. A lot of times today, we find that the ONT and the modem are placed side by side.
Got it.
From
Thank you.
from Axiome's standpoint, we do not like bringing fiber into people's homes because there's a chance for damage that is more difficult to repair. So we do exactly what Consolidated does. We go fiber to the ONT, and then we drill a hole in the side of the house, and we run an Ethernet cable into your home within 100 feet of that demarc. And we service on our dime everything up to the including the modem. Just FYI.
Okay.
Not that that's a
would
big
just say that
difference than what he said, but yeah.
Yeah, we do take that fiber into the home. We don't leave it on the outside. We take it right into the home. And same as Mark, our plans, there's no installation fee, there's no contract, and it's all included in the price. There's no uptick or anything like that.
Okay. I probably, as a hint, that would be included in the RFP. That question, so heads up.
Since we bring up that question, assuming somebody has 2 gig service, then whenever you do transition over to Ethernet, then, I mean, Cat 6 is gigabit. I know it can go higher than that. So if the goal is to have higher than gigabit service, so 2 gig, as you mentioned as an option already, obviously that requires a higher level of wiring when it transitions to copper. If you're to get to the modem, correct?
My understanding is 6E will take 2 gig.
6E, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Not just plain 6 though.
No.
Yeah. I remember the 5 to 5E transition. That was a wonderful day. So, okay. Anything specific that you would like to see in a sort of RFP document, Mark, just for clarity, or you feel similar to Simon on that one?
I do. I feel pretty similar. We've responded to many RFIs and RFPs. They're all sort of got their own flavor, their own way of dealing with things, and we do the best we can to answer the questions and support the RFP when we respond to it. So not uncomfortable, with whatever it is it's going to be. But I think that, well, I do have an opinion, but I'll leave it at that for right now. I'll leave it at that. You have a lot of decision making to happen that is well beyond the technical aspects of whatever is going to be delivered to your homes. Community. That's where I would focus on as a group.
Okay, Sandy?
Yeah, so I'm not tech savvy at all. That's why I sit here quietly while you all talk about the details. I'm more of a visual person, and I'm not familiar with RFPs per se. I was curious if there might be any visual mapping to help us better understand what's already being offered and what your changes are going to be.
When you say
As-
what's already offered, you mean existing internet service provider coverage versus what the end build that we would be looking for would look like?
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I would speak for us, you know, Danny had talked about some areas that had some pretty lousy service. That's our DSL, pretty lousy. So there's really no comparison, you know, with a copper network to a fiber network. You know, our copper network, when it rains or snows or gets wet, it's misty out, it faults, right? It's a metallic network, whereas fiber is glass. It really doesn't matter what the weather is doing outside. As long as that fiber does not get severed, it will work.
Mhm.
For us, of course, we have no service in either of your communities at the moment. We go up to about Steuben, somewhere in Steuben, but we have some service there. So,
Okay.
so I can give you a blank map. Like, that's not a
Not
problem.
helpful.
But, you know, like Simon mentioned, you know, and I'm sure Danny is the same, you know, everybody's now building to every home in every community. That's the standard that everybody's building to. So we don't leave anybody off of that list. And typically in towns like yours, there'll be 5 people. One of you is probably on this call that has a very difficult connection because you're 2 miles off the grid and you don't have electricity and you don't have poles, or you don't have this or that, or you're across some strait or bay, and how are you going to get service to me? And there's always a few of those. And we work pretty closely with the towns to try to make sure that those folks are, if they want service, that they are able to obtain service. So we have some creative ways of doing that. I'm sure the other providers do also. So we work hard at it.
And when you say getting service to those people that are like that last mile, are you saying you're getting them the service at the same rate as others are getting it?
That's
that
the goal. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, that you're delivering the exact same service across the whole community. Very
Right.
important from our perspective. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Having driven a few of those driveways this summer, I know there's a lot of long driveways in our
Those are
towns.
fine as long as they have poles on them. You know, that's where your issue will come when you
Mhm.
don't have, or underground utilities that have been buried there for 30 years. Those kinds of challenges need to be dealt with on a case by case basis. But yeah, you'll have some. There always are.
I found one in Gouldsboro and one in Sullivan that is completely off grid
Mhm.
and about probably 2 miles in.
Mm.
And no wires, no nothing. So for those, I have no illusion that those are gonna be able to be feasibly addressed. It would just be so prohibitively costly, I think. And I think for those scenarios, that's where if they've got generators and solar doing all of their electricity, they're probably gonna be okay with a satellite solution. But As-
We do have an option for a customer like that. It's not free.
Mhm.
But if they decided that they truly did want service,
Mhm.
we do a micro trenching that we offer. That's 250 feet is free. And then it's roughly $2 a foot after that. So again, there would be a cost to the customer. They would know that cost up front, right, before the work was started. But
Right.
it is a product that we offer.
Okay. Do you offer by the way, do you offer a microwave link?
We do not.
Okay.
We prefer not to, because it does reduce the level of service that you can get to
Mhm.
the customer, and it makes it much more challenging to get symmetrical service, and you need line of sight, at least with the stuff
Mhm.
there's no
Well,
such thing that
sure.
doesn't have line of sight. They pretend that there is, but there isn't. So we grew up as a wireless company, so we understand that part of the business. But But that very unique situation, I have somebody right now who's across the bay in Georgetown where we're building. They're gonna
Right.
get a wireless solution. I can't put fiber down into the bay.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna give them a wireless solution and they probably can achieve 100 over 100, probably. But
Right.
they're going from nothing, so I think they'll feel pretty good about it. But there's those kinds of situations that come up. So I say we try to achieve, we can achieve that if we can get fiber to your house. I pulled fiber on the ground through the woods, getting to
Mhm.
somebody's home before. So, that's our first option. We'll drag it to you. After
Right.
that, it gets more challenging depending on how your home is situated and what you are tolerant of as a homeowner. Because if you're
Mhm.
already in that situation, you're not a big fan of seeing people on your property. You're not a big fan of people bringing stuff to you. So, it's just a very unique sort of thing that goes on. But, we always have a few of them. We always try to deal with them as best we can. We
Sure.
always try, everything we do is we try to have, we advertise free installs in our community. So we try to build those into the grant process.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying we're benevolent, because we are not. We are a for-profit company. We try to make money. So we try not, how about this? Axiom tries not to lose money. How about that? We try not to lose money. And so, we typically build in your connections into the grant process so that everybody can get a free installation who signs up, relatively speaking. But as Simon said, there's some unique situations that sometimes the homeowner is going to have to be on the hook for something.
Mhm.
Well, and that was one of the things that I was trying to capture with the language of the RFI, as you brought up, Mark, that it was a little uniquely worded, and that is to understand that there are those just super long driveways, which it really shouldn't be the community's responsibility to go all the way down a 2 or 3 mile long driveway just because the person wanted to live 2 or 3 miles down the woods. But if there are a couple homeowners that share that road, that's more of a private road than a driveway. And yes, it might be private still, but we try to find a way to bring service down that road most of the way. So it's a balance to be struck, certainly.
And I think you have, MCA will have plenty of examples of RFPs or RFIs. I'm sure that they can share with you as templates, or some of the communities that we have talked to. I'm sure there are many that would be happy to share with you what they put out, and share their experience of how that was received by the ISPs.
Mhm.
Well, any other questions from the committee?
Nope.
All right, well, wonderful. Thank you. Thank all three of you again for joining us. You're welcome to stay on. You're welcome to jump off whenever you like. We're going to continue on our agenda here, and then we'll be reaching out after we get at least one of these community outreach events under our belts, and we have a little bit of direction.
Sounds great. If you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go
Thank you.
have dinner. Yeah, thank you. Or as they say in Maine, supper. Go and have
Yes,
supper.
yep.
All right?
Supper.
Yeah.
Supper.
All right.
care,
Everybody take care. Feel free.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. So what I will do then, oh, it's just the five of us.
Yep.
I will bring up, so Tom, I know you got a chance to review the PowerPoint. Bob, I missed, did you say you had?
Yeah, I caught, read some of it.
Okay. Would it be helpful
Yeah.
to go over it, just skim through it real quick while we're on this meeting? I have
We can-
no,
I think we can save it for what is it, the 26th? We have
Well- well, the 26th is when we're going to be showing it to people. So
Yeah.
if there's anything that people wanted to review on it, then we should do it before then.
Sure.
But I did, Tom, I did add in the language based on your comment that there is a third option, which is we can let the existing internet providers sort of get there on their own, with the caveats that we don't know when that's going to be, and we don't know how it will necessarily meet with the goals that we've established. So
Yeah. I know I'm getting unsolicited emails, I guess, from, well, particularly Consolidated, saying how they're going to be building out, and they're trying to paint a pretty rosy picture how things are coming, and it's just a matter of days, and that type of thing. So the marketing effort is starting to ramp up.
mhm.
And so you're going to find a lot of, I think you're going to find customers or residents that are going to be confused. It's like, well, why are we doing this? Because it's coming anyways. And so I think we just need to be prepared for that. That's all.
And I think I haven't gotten Fidium's advertising for myself here in Franklin. I know one other member of our broadband committee has gotten an email from Fidium saying, hey, would you be interested? I honestly believe it would make sense for these providers to start trying to push out that advertising in areas where they know there are broadband expansion efforts underfoot. But, so.
Yeah. And I'm also, you talk about creep, maybe it's the same one that I got, but I've got really wonderful DSL service here, and they're increasing it $3 a month in order to operate and support that DSL network. And then I get a Fidium thing saying, oh, by the way, we're coming out there with this wonderful fiber. That's a little aggravating, to
Yeah.
say the least.
Well, and my service is presently 80 meg bonded DSL. Now, it's pretty good because the central office is 50 feet in that direction.
Okay.
So that helps matters, but same thing.
No,
Price is going up by $3 a month. Now,
Yeah.
price for phone and internet is already $123, and I sort of have a hard limit at 125 because that was what my previous service, which at that time was with Spectrum, that's where, when they crossed the 125 threshold, that I switched to Consolidated. So now I'm not getting TV with it, but I'm going to be paying $70 a month for the first year, and maybe 20% more than that for the second year, for 500 over 20. So, like I said, I've got no loyalty, but to your point, in the places that they offer Fidium, you can get 1 gig for the first year for $70 a month. So, yeah.
Anyways, I don't have any options here, so, well, other than satellite.
Right. I mean, DSL, look, as a technology, DSL is dead. There's no investment in it whatsoever. I mean, it's copper. We have the D-SLAM on Newman Street here in Winter Harbor. And as far as I'm concerned, they could use that for pigeons or seagulls. To me, it's useless. So, I mean, we're pretty happy with Spectrum. And that's where we got that flyer that we now get, 500 meg standard if we upgrade the equipment. So I think what Spectrum is trying to do is preempt anything else from anybody else rather from coming in. So
Well, I think that's the case. And I also think they're using a tactic which, and I may have mentioned this before, that computer manufacturers have used for a very long time, which
Mhm.
is, oh, here's a really cheap laptop and it has a 1 TB hard drive or a 2 TB hard drive, because
Mhm.
hard drives are cheap.
Yep.
And nobody who's going to be doing any sort of any sort of work with a $400 laptop has a chance of ever needing to use 1 TB of space on that laptop hard drive. It's a selling point only because the number is big, it looks impressive, and
Right. most
most people don't know that you really don't need it. What would be better? A better processor. What would be better? More memory.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mhm.
what can the average home, let's say 2 adults and 2 kids, what can the average home do with 500 meg that they can't already do with the 300 meg that was the previous sort of top tier from Spectrum? You've got to have some strong demand to
Mhm.
saturate a 500 meg connection. You've got to have strong demand to saturate a 100 meg connection.
Mhm.
So to me, it's just it's a selling point just because the number is impressive. They don't highlight the uplink because it's still 20.
Right. Right.
So
Unless you have fiber.
unless you have fiber, and I would say there are very few Spectrum fiber customers in the area.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. Everything is hybrid cables, so
Mhm.
you're gonna have that asymmetrical, well, yeah, asymmetrical speeds. So
Yep.
that will change. I think my opinion, Roy, and I think Gouldsboro has more of a need than Winter Harbor,
Mhm.
being that Winter Harbor has pretty much Spectrum coverage. Now,
But
if you ask
it's
Peter,
But I'm not satisfied with it.
well, what are the issues?
I'm not, get dropped by Zoom meetings. There are two of us working in the home. There are sometimes 3 or 4 computers going at the same time, doing
Mhm.
technical work and doing Zoom meetings. So we're frequently dropped. I don't know what the true issue is, Bob, because I'm not a technical person, but we've had Spectrum sign us up and we have 3G and 5G. I can't tell you what the difference is between the two.
Well, 3G is dead. They stopped 3G. 5G is don't peek behind the curtain with 5G, because there's several flavors of 5G. True 5G is few and far between here in Maine. You may see it perhaps in Ellsworth. You'll see 5G signal coming across uh, in parts of Hancock and parts of Route 1, but it's not not true 5G. It's
so
they use different parts of the spectrum. For you, you see 5G and wow, okay, but most people are happy with 4G because the speed comparability is pretty much the same.
so
Okay, for your house, I can't tell you how many devices I have here between my wife has 3 devices. I just purchased this cheap laptop, Roy, to your point. Uh, I was more worried about the RAM, how much RAM I had to play with. And for my functions, for my needs, is fine. I don't do gaming or anything like that. So 8 gig is good. My router handles it just fine. And I suspect you may have router issues.
well, and to that
Sandy.
point, Sandy, and the nomenclature is important here because there's 4G and there's 5G, which are cellular based services, data
Mhm.
services. And there's 2.4 gigahertz and there's 5 gigahertz, which are bands on routers. And that is more linked to your internet service from an internet provider. And the 5 gigahertz is a faster connection, but is less reliable. It does not traverse obstacles like walls as well. So, and for
Right.
most people, I recommend, unless and I've never had the case to recommend 5 gigahertz, but unless they're gamers and they're sitting in the same room as their router and they need to have wireless instead of a wire, that's when I would recommend the 5 gigahertz network. I would all
Right.
other times recommend the 2.4 gigahertz network, which isn't always specified in the network name that it's 2.4. It's usually just whatever the network name is versus 5 gigahertz, which is that network name plus 5G. So
Right.
that's something that may be impacting you. But again, I think when the question about how well served Winter Harbor was, I saw Rhiannon unmuted, so I'm just, she didn't raise her hand, but I'm going to go back. Rhiannon, did you have something you wanted to say on that one?
I actually unmuted because I do have to log off in a couple of minutes. I have another meeting I have to hop on, but in
Okay.
terms of that, I mean, you know, from last summer that the internet service at my home is extraordinarily subpar. We have DSL through Consolidated. And I mean, I'm not sure if it is, I don't personally pay for the internet at my house, and I'm not sure if it is a price issue or a actual service issue, or just sort of like being set in their way sort of thing, that that my parents have not chosen to go to Spectrum. But I do just know that the as Bob was saying, DSL is kind of dead. It's not working at the level that it needs to support the amount of virtual work that people are needing to do in 2023.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, there's a lot of issues with DSL and a lot of issues you don't need to deal with and you shouldn't have to deal with the technology that's available today. So, I mean, you're looking at price points. I mean, don't confuse cable or Spectrum. Yeah, there's two components. There's the internet component and there's the cable component. So don't confuse the two. Okay. So, I mean, you're paying, to have bundled services on Spectrum with cable and cable television and internet, two separate distinct things. So what you really want to do is separate the two, because cable TV is an option. Internet is what we're really talking about. And that's what we really need to sell to the public.
Yeah.
It's that it's internet.
But
So,
also,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Roy.
but to your point about, and you've raised it a few times, that Spectrum is reasonably pervasive throughout Winter Harbor already. Pervasive is probably the wrong term, but pretty well covers most of Winter Harbor. But it's still until and if Spectrum switches to fiber for their network, it's going to still have those asymmetrical speeds. And
Absolutely.
if our goal as a committee is to get symmetrical speeds, at least 100 megabits in each direction, if that's our committee's goal, then we really need to say we need fiber and we need to treat both towns the same. And if people, the reality is we probably won't have the same take rate by a fair margin in Winter Harbor as we will in Gouldsboro, because of how underserved Gouldsboro is right now.
That is correct.
But I would think it would balance out a little bit. So if we could, we won't know until we get some more data and a little further into the process. But I think it's important to try and push that we have this same standard, the same minimum standard for both communities. And over time, maybe we'll, depending on what the price point is for the internet and the services that people can push over that internet, maybe eventually we'll capture a lot more of that that Spectrum crowd. So
I understand. I understand where you're coming from, Roy. I really do, but let me ask you, the most important thing to people is the download speed. You know, very rarely, unless you're medical imaging, where you need the fiber. And when I worked for Spectrum, fiber was really reserved for businesses, commercial applications, not for residential. And usually, when you had fiber, if you needed a backup, uh, uh, you would get regular, cable as a backup. But if you're not medical, there's really not much point in having 100 meg up, unless you're, you know. But that's maybe I'm old school or what, but that seems to be it. But I don't care one way or the other. Like if we can get consolidated, they're like cheap son of a guns, you know? They're gonna charge you a premium price. I'd love to know how the project is going on in Gouldsboro, the town hall offices. They had like a special thing like for 80 meg. But I mean, they're paying an exorbitant amount of money for what the service they're getting.
I can actually find out what that cost is. They just actually completed it in January, and we've got to do the switch over to that service from Spectrum. So their billing didn't start until this year.
Okay.
But yeah, that, and actually I think it might even be 50 meg. I think I got the confirmation email from them about this. Either way, I think they made that switch not because of the speed, but because they were paying 3 separate Spectrum bills to the tune of several $100s a month. And this was going to be combining them. And so I don't know the finer details, but I can look and find out.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear about that. I'm not in bed with anybody. I think if Consolidated is willing to do the heavy lifting, or Axiom, and that's where the RFP would come in, let them do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
That's my 2 cents.
So just to be clear, I mean, Rhiannon had to leave. She didn't have any comments about the PowerPoint. Sandy, you got a chance to look at it?
Yes, I did. I'd say go with that.
Okay.
Use that as your first presentation, and I assume we'll probably do another outreach at some point. My comments were more around the event itself. That you have enough support from folks, or do you have someone from the town that's going to support you as well at the event?
Support in what way?
Someone to take an email list or a sign-in list so you know how many people attended, or just sort of taking notes for any questions that come up?
Well, I was kind of hoping that we would have at least 1 or 2 members of this committee who might be able to show up, but a sign-up list, I can bring a clipboard and a pad of paper.
Yeah.
I can probably manage the slideshow myself.
I'll be there.
Do you know
so-
Vicky Ray?
REA? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
She
I
works
always-
with Goldsboro Shore, and she volunteers at Dorcas Library.
The name is familiar. I don't know that I know her personally.
She very much wants to attend the event, and she would be one of those people in the community that could support. She's one of those, she's at the end of East Scudic Drive in Goldsboro, not getting very good service, and really wants to figure out what the new upgrades might be.
Which end of it?
National Park end.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've got the one, we're on East Scudic as well, and the connectivity with, Spectrum is not very good there as well.
Yeah.
So,
So then I think, we'll run with the presentation as it is. And when it comes down to actually doing the event, so I will reach out again to the town office tomorrow. We'll get these pieces mailed out. I will check. I hope Alita's there tomorrow. If not, I did check. I don't seem to have access to the quarterly report.
Yep, that's
Mhm.
fine. I had just the PDF version and I've been filling that in as we had this meeting with just because we're estimating right now. We haven't technically spent the money. So I'm just
Right.
gonna send that to her with, this is our estimation. We really don't have any funds spent.
Yeah.
And, add in, there was in-kind donations. So I was just gonna include the first quarter of Scudic Institute use of the virtual space. I have
Okay.
and then the use of the gymnasium that you do for the meeting. So you didn't have a fee there to pay for the gymnasium, but normally that would have been $125 fee.
Yeah, I mean, where we're a town committee, basically, yeah, they weren't gonna charge us, but yeah, if you wanted to include that as an in-kind,
Yeah, I
Sure.
couldn't think of anything else. They're always looking for like, how is the community participating? So I
Mhm.
just felt like it's good to show something on that side of the
Yep.
spreadsheet.
so you're
Okay.
on top of that report then.
I've
Okay,
got that all set. And are you okay? So the document that you shared with us, the letter that we approved at today's meeting, is it okay to send that by email?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
You should be able to download it right from the email that I sent out.
I'll send that to Vicky Ray then, so she's got a heads up.
Okay, so when we do get to that point of having the event, again, all of this is new for me. So I can reach out to the district staff and see, like when we've done contract negotiations, they bring in platters of food, basically. So I'll probably just touch base with them. I would envision probably either, I mean, the most bang for the buck is probably gonna be Hannaford. And I don't know where else for pizza, specifically, but you know, we could try to do something local, or we could,
Yeah, mixed market.
yeah, I'm fine with local. So I mean, there's the local options, which I think like Dunbar's, for example, I know they've catered a little bit for our contract negotiations. So I don't know which way we want to go. I'm really curious how many people are going to RSVP. But I guess we'll find out. And we may want to have just a small unofficial exchange when it comes down to the days leading up to that meeting, just to identify the, you know, the extent to which we need to buy food. I don't want to spend $250 on food and end up eating a third of it myself.
Invite the school.
So, so no other refining. We voted, which is great. It'll be easier to have a quorum in the future. So our next meeting is really the, unless we wanted to meet in advance of the outreach event, which I don't know that we necessarily need to actually meet. I think we can shuffle ideas over email or questions that we come up with. Or would you be okay with just saying, determining a next meeting date once we get closer to that, and just leave that as our outreach as our next meeting for right now?
I think we should have a quick call just to make sure we got everything we need for the 26th.
Mhm.
Probably a post-mortem on that event. Wouldn't be a bad idea where we stood and what the feeling is.
Do you want to do that like immediately after, or do you want to plan on the second Wednesday, like we are right now? Because then maybe, who knows, maybe if we get good feedback and we want to do the Winter Harbor outreach, maybe we do that in the 4th week of May. That's an option as well. And to that point, there's something that somebody suggested, which I actually like better than the idea of Scudic Institute. If we reach out to Scudic Arts for All and talk about Hammond Hall, because it's sort of central in town, and Schoodic Institute is a bit of a haul.
Mhm.
Yep.
So I would be interested in that, and I would have no qualms paying them for the use of the space.
I agree.
Mm.
Good with that.
That would work.
And
Okay.
I am out and on vacation. I'll be back May 1st.
Vacation.
I'm not
What are you talking about
retired, so.
vacation?
Well, I'm not retired, so I take vacation.
Oh.
Yeah, but I'll take care of this. I'll get the email out to Vicky Ray and I'll get that report over to MCA.
Okay, thank you.
Cool.
Anything else that we need to touch on?
No, I'm good. I just want to get my laptop fired up.
Well, you enjoy that new laptop, Bob, and
Thank you.
make sure you have your Post-it notes handy in case there isn't a shutter on that camera.
I hear you. I hear you. I can't
right.
stand that. Oh, God. Anyway,
Okay, thank you
all
all.
right. Well,
Thank you
thank
all.
you.
Yep.
Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.